Today in the EU, fear of espionage seeps through EU institutions amid new AfD scandal. Across Europe, more and more politicians have been accused of ties to foreign governments in the past month. At the center of the latest scandal, the German far-right party and its leader, around whom all of AfD European campaign revolves, Maximilian Krah. Hello and welcome. I'm Giada Santana, and this is Today in the EU.
Espionage.
Espionage has become a buzzword in the corridors of European institutions. From Russian intelligence to the Chinese government, police investigations into the presence of spies have made headlines and put political careers at risk, including the one of AfD Spitzenkandidat Maximilian Krah. To discuss the latest developments, I'm joined here in the studio by Kjeld Neubert. Hi, Kjeld, and welcome back.
Hello, Giada.
Last time, we also spoke about AfD. 3 days ago, a staff member of the German far-right party has been arrested. He's the lead candidate, Maximilian Krah. The event has sparked intense speculations with allegations suggesting involvement with different foreign intelligence agencies for espionage. Before delving into exactly what happened this week, who is Maximilian Krah?
Yes, so as you already mentioned, Krah is the lead candidate for the German party Alternative für Deutschland, so Alternative for Germany, which is part of the far-right parliamentary group Identity and Democracy in the European Parliament. He has been a member of the parliament since 2019 and has gained quite a significant audience on social media, especially TikTok, for example. There he is spreading his political messages, but also advises his followers in order to get a girlfriend, you should not watch porn, not vote the Greens, go out and get some fresh air, for example. However, recently his reach on the platform was restricted due to breaches of the community guidelines for incitement against minorities and spreading far-right conspiracies. But due to his public reach, Krah is the face of the AfD in the European Parliament. And their election campaign is tailored around him. At least that was the plan until now.
Right, as we mentioned, this is not the first time that the AfD is caught in the midst of a scandal. This is the third in a few months. We discussed not that long ago what happened to Peter Bistron, who was reportedly caught accepting funds from the Russian disinformation website Voice of Europe. What happened this time?
This time, a staff member of Krah was detained on Monday night by the German authorities. They believe that the parliamentary assistant has worked for Chinese intelligence to spy on opposition groups who are exiled in Germany and to relay parliamentary information to the Chinese, basically using the access of being in the parliament while working for Krah.
Why would Krah be a strategic politician to target for the Chinese government?
What might be relevant to note is that Krah is a member of the International Trade Committee in the parliament, as well as the subcommittees on human rights and on security and defense. So he has access to quite some sensible information. So, according to various media reports, Krah, however, is himself quite close to relations with China, which have now led the authorities to look into Krah himself. However, this is a separate case from the spy allegations against his former assistant. So it's both are evolving around China, but those are two different pair of shoes.
What do these different allegations consist of?
Yes, so the allegations against his assistant are concretely that he has been working or being a member of the Chinese intelligence service, right? This is pretty concrete. And the allegations against Krah are twofold. So there are two preliminary investigations. One, the close relations to China. So they are looking into if he was being influenced by China, taken on not directly money, but maybe being paid for certain trips and being influenced in that way.
The Chinese government pushed back against the allegations. This is what the foreign minister spokesperson had to say.
The so-called Chinese spy threat theory is not new in the European public opinion field. That is to discredit and suppress China and destroy the atmosphere of cooperation between China and Europe.
And the second preliminary investigations are on the topic which we have talked about, I think it was last week, on Russiagate and taking money from the Russians peddling their propaganda.
So potentially Krah could be involved in the Russiagate and in this new, well, we could call it at this point, Chinagate as well.
Correct. Yes, there's a collection happening. However, I need to stress that these are preliminary investigations by the German authorities. So they are checking if it is worth investigating fully and committing to the investigation themselves.
Now, Krah is part of two important committees. What could be China's diplomatic goal behind this alleged influence attempt?
The great overarching goal of these influence and espionage attempts is to strengthen and secure the rule of the Chinese Communist Party, to say it simply. Their network of agents is tasked to gather relevant information on one side on the Chinese opposition, which, by the way, lives in most cases outside of the country in exile. So there need to be agents in foreign countries to look into this. And in addition, China is interested in insights of upcoming EU policies or political strategies. In the end, information is power, and the more you have, the better you can react or even influence the outcome.
Yeah.
For example, with the start of her term by Commission President von der Leyen, she set out the goal to make the Commission, and by consequence the EU, a geopolitical one. She called China a systematic rival.
We're very clear that we have an ambiguous relationship to China. As I said, a systemic rival, a negotiating partner, for example, when it comes to climate change, fighting climate change.
There are talks about de-risking the European economy from dependent economic relations, and protective trade tariffs are considered for certain sectors.
And how is that relevant for the People's Republic of China?
These are all quite powerful and relevant developments in the EU, and China is, of course, interested in having an eye, maybe even a closer eye than legally allowed on this matter. And in addition, the parliament has always been critical of Chinese oppression of minorities and so forth. So if you are a foreign actor and you want to prevent a certain narrative or an action against you, you will find the European institutions and especially the European Parliament an ideal starting point. We have seen this already with Qatargate and the Russian influence, and it continues.
Right. Fear of foreign influence is seeping through EU institutions now, maybe more than before. The Green Party has called for President Roberta Metsola to expand an investigation into the matter. How will the parliament respond to the latest developments?
Yes, you're right. The Greens have asked Metsola to bring light into this matter, but also many other political groups. They want to resolve or get light to these accusations quite swiftly. From the parliament side, the alleged and now arrested staffer by Krah was suspended the morning following his detainment, but other concrete steps or measures have not been taken yet. It could be that they are waiting on more information on the case, or if they're waiting if this is just an isolated incident.
And in terms of the data that we have available, what do the latest reports say about the presence of spies and foreign intelligence across different European states?
Yes, you are correct. So the recent incident with Krah's assistant has not been the only one. Germany has recently made headlines due to uncovering espionage networks Last week, for example, 2 people were arrested for spying for Russia and planning attacks on military infrastructure. And in addition, on Monday, 3 people were arrested who were allegedly spying for China. This has also been separate cases, but it slowly builds a picture.
What can you tell me about the situation in the rest of Europe instead?
On the same day as Krah's assistant was detained, in Britain, 2 men were charged with handing over information to China between 2021 and last year. And those were just the most recent examples, right? Like, especially after the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, European states expelled hundreds of Russian diplomats who were suspected of being intelligence agents.
These news developments really remind me of the Cold War, and it seems something that we overcame and something that is in the past. But are we really far away from this type of espionage?
I'm not an espionage expert, but it would be interesting to make comparison if the Cold War stories were just more glamorous and they just continue to happen outside of the public eye, right? What this is being showing now, that we are moving into a different time where these kind of things, especially, for example, for the Russian diplomats, are not being tolerated anymore. It's not like these suspected Russian diplomats were uncovered after the Russian invasion. The German and the European intelligence service of different member states, they knew about these people before, but they did not want to escalate the situation, and they were just having an eye on them. By Russia's invasion, the situation was there that they were saying, okay, this is enough, and we don't need these people in our country anymore. We don't have relations with Russia as tight as before.
Tomorrow marks the beginning of the EU elections kickoff. Do you think there's a chance that Maximilian Krah, the lead candidate, might be replaced due to the latest allegations?
Indeed, the AfD is having their election kickoff on Saturday. This has been obviously planned for a long time. For Krah, at the beginning of the week, he was reconfirmed as the lead candidate, right? After the allegations and the detainment of his assistant, he explained the situation to the party leadership, and they basically said that he will stay the lead candidate. However, that was before the preliminary investigations against himself surfaced. Back then, already, it was decided that he will not attend the kickoff meeting himself. It was said that in order to not draw attention away from the matter which they want to convey.
Right. Well, removing him might mean hindering onto the AfD campaign.
As I mentioned before, the whole election campaign is focused on him. So the posters are printed, the TV spots are done and already paid for. So it is difficult to completely leave him out of the campaign or even take away his lead candidacy. However, there have been rumors that they actually might go as far as not publishing his face, basically, in the campaign. But we will see this in the upcoming weeks.
Thank you, Kjeld. I'm Giada Santana, and this was Euractiv's Today in the EU podcast. Visit Euractiv to stay on top of the latest news, sign up for our podcast newsletter, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite streaming platform. It will really help us spread the word about our work. This episode was produced by Miriam Sanz de Tejada, Nicoletta Yonta, and me. See you next week. As part of our commitment to accuracy, inclusion, and transparency, Euractiv is part of the Trust Project.